Okay, so we're going to be doing the distributed switch as well as VMware security profiles. So the distributed switch itself is a huge subject, much huge, bigger subject than it's like, if you're doing CCNA or CCN one of the examples of CCNP. So we're going to be doing at least touching it or the basics of distribution switch, but good enough to know exactly how centralized it is. I have my machines nearly ready. Oh, seriously? So okay, one of the machine has done a mutiny, but anyway, so we have played a lot with virtual switches, standard switches, and we're gonna play today with the distributed switch. There's a comment. Okay, there's a question in the comments in the chat that what's the purpose of the virtual VMware vCenter appliance. So we just wanted to see how to install it. Now we do not need it. If you wanna, if you're running out of space, just delete it. If you want to keep it there, it's okay. You can use it in VMware 6. It is actually also browser based, and you don't even have to, it's like installation of a software. You don't even have to have a separate machine for that. So hopefully at the end of this course, we're going to try to do some VMware 6 basics as well, just to touch them. But mainly, yes, we don't need the vCenter appliance because we already have a Windows based vCenter. So that's going to be just easily we can just follow up. But we now know how to install a VMware appliance and what is required there, the DNS settings and everything, how to basically configure that. That's all what we needed. Okay, so my other machines are ready. So what happened is I did try to practice on the distributed switch and was trying lots of settings there, and that got my environment a little, I have a lot of troubleshooting going on there, so I have to now start my other environment. Thank God I had another working environment. Well, is it working? We're gonna just know now, but you should have an alternate environment when you're trying different things, especially when it comes to networking. If we mess up with any of the data stores or storage, it's not, we can recover out of that, but when we are touching switches, and especially when we are centralizing that network option, that's going to be really messy. So now you're going to see today how distributed switch controls all the other switches. In our case, we have just two vCenters. If you have, okay, there are some comments in the chat. So I prepared ESXi03, removed vSwitch 1 till 3. Yeah, that's good. So we don't need the, we have virtual switch 0, and we don't need any other. We're gonna create a consistent network environment on our ESXi hosts, and then we're going to give the control to a centralized distributed switch, and then we're going to test one or two changes from the distributed switch just to check if whatever change we make, does it happen on both of the V-switches of both the ESXi servers or not. So we're gonna talk about all that scenario and how it is working, what is happening, why it is happening. So distributed switch is kind of a daunting task, but if we follow the steps that we follow it. And also one more thing is that if you see some of the differences in the you know, in my environment and in your environment. Oh, it's expired today. Anyway, so just see that you know, this is 3 classes away. This lab of mine right now is 3 classes away. But I'm just going to use my basic networking here, and then I'm just going to go for the distributed networks. So basically we just need a vSwitch 0 to start with, and then we're going to create our environment. So what's the plan and what we're trying to do? I'm just trying to get the environment up and running while I put the slide in front of you. I'm on VMware MEM01 and VMware, okay, and there it is, vSphere web client, and there is connectivity with ESXi servers. So I'm just gonna keep checking this lab, and let's start with the slide as well, and let's create some diagrams and drawings, and also sorry for the absences yesterday. Okay, so I hope many of you who haven't given the exam VCP, you could just go ahead and try to at least go through the questions. And if you haven't got that 70% exam fee discount voucher, get it now, as maybe I think you still have access, but it's like sometimes it's they remove that access in 1 year, sometimes even earlier than that. So if you haven't gotten that you know, voucher of 70%, that's a free voucher that you can use anytime. So at least get the voucher, and then when you use it, so the 70% discount will apply to your VCP DCV exam 5.5, DCV 5.5 or 6 exam. So please try to at least go to get that, grab that voucher, and also get those VC files and start doing some questions. Okay, so we have just a recap of our environment. 5 VMs we have created, then we added also appliance, you know, that was a 6 machine, and then we installed and checked, and then we don't need it now, so you could remove it. And we created a lot of virtual machines on both. Then we did this local storage, NFS, iSCSI, and then that appliance we were talking about. Okay, then we played a lot with virtual switches, and okay, there's a comment in the chat. I'm reconnecting SAN storage server 03 by in Webex-Vmware. So any idea how to activate those VMs that is linked to SAN database or iSCSI? So if you have SAN environment, you know, that SAN machine, if it is up and running, they should be connected. I mean, you don't have to create a separately or manually reconnect them. If that is pingable and communicating, then you should be able to, you know, connect with that. So let me know if you are having any problem. Okay, so we have worked a lot with the virtual switches, and there thank you for submitting your the screenshots. Please also submit others as well, because that was extensive playing with the vSwitches, visual standard switch. Let's go ahead, and then we performed also this lab, and I hope you all have performed this. Try to take those screenshots or make a video out of that and send it to me. Okay, so there is that distributed switch that we were talking about. All this is the distributed switch diagram, but we're gonna go in detail why do we need it. So they say that just like in Windows environment, in domain environment, there are group policies that are we can implement some consistent settings on all machines from in one go. Just like if you in a Windows environment, you're trying to block desktop. Distributed switch in detail, that would be really huge topic, and we have other topics as well, but we're going to be doing the lab so we could understand that, and we can give it another day as well for the detail, but that will be huge detail. That's like you're doing CCNP or this is pure networking, and huge amount of topics there. We can just put like 4 or 5 classes for that, but that's going to be some detail you're going to see today. I mean, today is just fixed for distributed switch. It's not like we are just touching that. Okay, let's go ahead and so it's like a centralized control of all the virtual switches we have in our environment, and we're gonna try to go through the diagrams as well. Let me also check my environment there, where I was trying to get my vCenter up and running, so at least I could maintain my environment as well. There are lots of steps, and we're going to talk about why we are doing what we're doing. So I just don't want my environment to be lagging behind while we are trying to get it up and running. So while it is loading, so I'm just going to go back. So there are 2 types. We have already done port groups on standard switch and uplinks, which are physical network cards. Now let's go with the VDS features, or virtual distributed switch. There's that one screenshot I took from So this standard switch and distributed switch, what they support, what standard switch supports, and what huge amount of networking features distributed switch supports. And main thing why would we need distributed switch would be that if you have hundreds of hosts, it's like hundreds of hosts, a huge environment, and and you would want to have consistent network settings that need to be maintained while the virtual machines are migrating, or any other type of objects in the VM environment that affect or that may affect the network. So distributed switch would maintain that network environment. Distributed switch would maintain that network environment, or keep it consistent from a central location, right? So there are lots of features here that distributed switch is supporting. So layer 2 switch, which is standard and distributed as well. VLAN segmentation, we had that VLAN option which we did not use. And then 802.1 Q tag. There are so many. If you are fresh with the concepts of Cisco and networking, you would know a lot of this terminology, but we're gonna go through them briefly. So there are tagging for all the packets that are going to leave the ESXi environment, and then when packets are tagged, then the troubleshooting, the software or the Cisco switches that receive those packets can see where they are coming from, how much is the payload, and that's for troubleshooting options. NIC teaming is supported by both standard and distributed switches. Outbound traffic shaping, so that is outbound traffic shaping that we saw in the standard switch. We saw that option as well, and we tried to talk about that. Inbound traffic shaping is when distributed switch is involved. Now all the rest of the settings are all VM network port block. We can just block all the ports which help in communicate in the communication between the ESXi server and the environment. We can simply block all the ports as well. Private VLANs are, when you create a VLAN, you can still segment more that one VLAN you created by creating private VLANs. So it's a VLAN for other VLANs. This is then load based teaming. So if there's a web server or Exchange servers, there are 5 Exchange servers, virtual machines, and 2 web server virtual machines, and Exchange server virtual machines are sending a lot of load. So you could make a nick teaming just based on that. Okay, whatever exchange traffic is coming, these 3 set of network cards will be teamed together to just handle exchange server traffic. Okay, there are 2 more network cards remaining, suppose, so they will handle just the web-based traffic. So we can team network cards as well, which is also supported just by a distributed switch. There will be huge amount of questions when we do the lab. The lab itself is also a bit tricky, but there will be lots of questions also when we are doing the lab. But our main purpose is to see how to get the controls of ESXi net servers networking from standard switch to distributed switch, how distributed switch can control some of the policies of the standard switch network settings. Okay, so there is that data center level management. Yes, standard switch is distributed switch is created on data center level, while standard switch is created on ESXi level, right? Okay, there's a question. Which vSwitch we usually use in production environment, standard or it's always the standard switch. In fact, you will be amazed that in our environment also we are just still using standard switch, because distributed switch is complicated enough, and you're gonna see today why. That you would want to test it first in your test environment. We have like 700, 800 virtual machines, and at least 15 or 14 hosts, and this is distributed globally. So, but we still use standard switches, and you saw that so much can be achieved with standard switches. But when we go for, so if we had deployed distributed switch, the networking team is separate and VMware team is separate in a huge environment. So there needs to be a lot of collaboration. The networking team is handling physical switches. They may have a huge network of VLANs, and so you have to have the software-based networking in line with the physical networking going on. So that's why distributed switch requires that you should be having a good hands-on in your lab environment before you go production with the distributed switch. Although it's not that big threat, it's just that you need to know exactly how to integrate your software-based network with physical networks. Anyway, you're gonna see now. I mean, our small example will really give it. It will clarify that. Oh, that's how it works. Oh, okay. So network vMotion, yes, is supported. So network vMotion over the network. So vMotion was between the 2 clients, but we're gonna go in depth with network vMotion, or how high this level goes over the vMotion is across the branch. And if there are hundreds of hosts which are connected to the distributed switch, then what level of traffic, on what level the vMotion can be done. So we haven't done even the host to host vMotion. So when we do that, we're gonna visit back this option as well, because we will have a distributed switch installed by that time before we visit the vMotion. So we're gonna check, okay, how do we use distributed switch to do that if our environment really is good enough. So after you do the distributed switch, I would also suggest one more thing, guys. Before even touching the distributed switch, please take a snapshot of your machines, because it's gonna be messy. But anyway, you're gonna see. So when I request, okay, try to remove the distributed switch setting, then you will realize, oh, what have we done? So anyway, it's better to go for snapshot. Take a snapshot of all 3 machines, the vCenter and the 2 or 3 ESXi machines. Anyway, so vNetwork switch APIs, if there are other intermediate APIs or applications that help you connect from the source to the target, smaller utilities, they are also supported by distributed switch, but that's like in depth of switching if you have done CCNP, routing and switching, or CCNA, you would have a much better idea of that, or if that knowledge is fresh. Many of us have been coming from that class. So per port policy settings, we're going to see those options: port state monitoring, whatever traffic is going through the port, or what is the state of the port, is it in what state it is. So there are dynamically ports are assigned, there are statically ports are assigned, and for which type of port, which type of traffic that particular port is handling. So all that those options are still available in distributed switch. Let's go ahead and try to cover this. So this was just that vSwitch standard switch, where we had port groups which were helping us take the traffic in and out, different types of traffics. One switch was taking out, and they were uplink the physical network cards. Here we tried to do that, and this is just a recap. The other slide just says that one standard switch can either have multiple types of traffic going through it, or you could just dedicate one switch for one type of traffic, and second switch for second type of traffic, and third, and so on. We did that. We played a lot with the vSwitches. So well, distributed switch comes when you have huge environment. So if we have 50 hosts and we need to make a network port group level change, or implement any new policy on all the hosts, the networking of all the hosts, then we can do that from virtual distributed switch. That is one statement we read. Doing it is a totally different planet. But let's go ahead and attempt it. We also so vSphere distributed switch. vSphere distributed switch acts as a single switch across all associated hosts on data center. So in previous lab we had like 4 switches per host for different types of traffics and different types of scenarios. Now we're talking about one central switch, really talking about really trying to handle all the networking of all the hosts in one data center. So we already know that distributed switch is available on data center level, right? So this allows virtual machines to maintain consistent network configuration as they migrate across multiple hosts. So within one data center, suppose you have 2 hosts and or 10 hosts. Virtual machines are migrating from one host to another. The network settings should be consistent when they reach the second host, because the network settings will be, they would get it from the distributed switch. The distributed switch will be handling from vCenter that network settings of all the virtual machines that are migrating. So main thing is still that it's controlling all the network settings of the hosts which we have migrated to the distributed switch from virtual switch. It's going to maintain all the network settings centrally. Okay, a distributed port group. We created port groups in virtual standard switch. We're going to be creating port groups in distributed switch as well, but that's going to handle the VM kernel traffic of all the virtual switches. So a distributed port is a port on a vSphere distributed switch that connects to a host's VM kernel. So VM kernel handled 4 types of traffics. Can anyone name any one type of traffic that VM kernel handle out of the 4? So does it handle virtual machine network traffic? Yes or no? Or what type of traffic it handles, the VM kernel? There's a question, so I'm just gonna put that question. What type of traffic VM kernel handles? I put it on the chat. So anyone can know what type of traffic VM kernel handles? 4 types, right? and any one of the 4 types? Yeah, you could Google it. It's okay. And so that, let's see who participates in the question. And I thought that was easy one. Okay. Distributed port. So yeah, vMotion, exactly. vMotion. There are 3 other types of options that VM kernel offers. SAN, exactly. Oh wow. Okay, cool. Way to go, Fasi. So and let's go ahead. So VM kernel. So our distributed port on our distributed switch connects to a host VM kernel. So if we have a vMotion port group created on vSwitch 0 or standard switch, so we can create that vMotion could be handled from a distributed switch as well. But if I start creating a diagram here, so these are our hosts, and there is that VDS or the distributed switch, and then there are these standard switches here. So this would be our virtual distributed switch. This would be our virtual standard switch, and you've created a port group here that is responsible for vMotion. Okay, so these 2 port groups are, so this port group is responsible for virtual machine migration for this particular host, and this vMotion port group is responsible for the virtual machines migration of this particular host. But we can create a distributed on the virtual distributed switch distributed port group, distributed port group, and that will be also named as vMotion distributed port group. And then we're going to tell this port group that that you have, no, I just need a straight line, that you have 2 hosts who have these distribution vMotion port groups, and you're going to handle their suppose there are some specific settings that are present on both of the vMotions. Suppose there's a VLAN there, they are both following one VLAN, or one is this host is following VLAN 110, this was following VLAN 111. So distributed port group or any other settings that related to vMotion. So there will be one setting we were going to do here for on the distributed port group for vMotion, and all the virtual machines will be following just that setting to migrate from one host to another, or if there are large number of hosts. So if we go for huge amount of hosts here, so the vMotion setting will be you can just put that setting once on the distributed switch, and that all the hosts that have been added to the distribution switch will have to follow that setting, right? But yeah, so vMotion classes, exactly, upcoming classes. Of course, there are huge amount of topics. vMotion is not the only one, but definitely this is something that is used in production environment a lot. So we're gonna have that either next or this coming weekend or the next week. But there are the FTHA classes as well. We need to have the configuration for those as well. So definitely all the important labs we will be covering, and we'll try to. Oh, one more thing, guys. So anyone available tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, so we can try another class within this week. Let me know, and I will email as well, so if others can join. This, I think you guys are the regular ones. Others are relying on the video. So I'm just going to check if you guys are there. I'm gonna just start. So but anyway, let me know if you guys are there next 2 days. So okay, let's go ahead and get back, and so the port group will be created on the distributed switch as well, just like the port group was created on the vSwitch 0. Yep. Okay, one guy is available tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So okay, a VDS or Virtual Distributed Switch is only available with vCenter, as it is able to manage multiple hosts. Okay, so we're going to create that on vCenter and not on the so where's that sophisticated huge diagram? So it's available in vCenter here, and so virtual standard switches are created on ESXi level, and distributed switch will be created under the data center on the vCenter. So it's going to be connecting to the network cards of still the ESXi servers, but VSS are directly connected to their network cards. If you want to create a switch, you need to connect with the network card as well on the ESXi level, but VDS is going to be connected through its virtual uplinks. So we're going to see that setting, but anyway, so okay, 2 are available, 1 is not. So well, we can also have that. Let's have that put that on board as well, and the video is always available in case you're creating screenshots or okay. So this is something yeah, vCenter level VDS and VSS on ESXi level. Let's go ahead. VDS is only available with vCenter, as it is able to manage multiple hosts. VDS allows inbound and outbound traffic shaping. So yes, we saw that option in the virtual switch as well, but virtual switch is the virtual standard switch is just giving us the option of handling the outbound traffic, while distributed switch will allow the inbound or incoming traffic as well as outbound. Inbound is ingress and outbound is, what is that? Egress, right? So when network resource management is enabled, VDS traffic is divided into the following network resource pools. So we haven't worked on the resource pools yet, so we're gonna also touch the DRS in next topic. And before that, the security of VMware as well, which is miscellaneous settings that we should know. So if we have resource pools configured, then the VDS divides the traffic into the following: FT traffic, iSCSI traffic, into all these traffics, but we will be studying the resource pools in next classes. So one can control the priority for the traffic from each of these network resource pools. So the traffic prioritization can be handled through when we're setting the network with the resource pools option, but we haven't done the resource pool yet, so vNetwork standard switch versus vNetwork distributed switch. So before start going through this, let's check the environment. So I'm just gonna log in quickly just to get my environment ready. We have lots of steps there, and I'm gonna create the diagrams for that as well. And I hope there are people following this lab. So there is that switch created VMware vSphere, and also the IP, although it's gonna connect to localhost, but I just wanted to know the IP as well. So in case I need to check the vSphere through the vSphere client as well, that's 1.2. 92.168.1.2. Okay, so trying to connect from there as well as here. When it's taking longer time, I would want to check the services as well. So tools, services, and a very quick way to check the services for your workstation is or any of the services, that any service against the automatic is started. So well, so I'm just gonna go for startup type here and go automatic running. Okay, you're supposed to oh, okay, vCenter is okay, good. So I don't need to go through the services. 25 days left. Anyone has the sacred numbers to, you know, continue this vCenter? Anyway, so yes, they are working fine. I'm just going to go and check the network settings for both the hosts and come back then. There's a, you know, long steps that I have created. So okay, so Chandra, you have 3 ESXi hosts, or number 3, or the IP address? Okay, so networking, virtual switches, I have vSwitch 0 for the, okay, my machine names are different in the practice environment, and I don't have a lot of virtual machines as well, but just to you know, do the virtual environment, we're gonna have to recreate some of the things. This is just like the basic networking environment we have right now. You can just if you have the vSwitch 0 only, that's good for both. So my in other ESXi environment, I had the names of the servers as ESXi 01 for Toronto and ESXi 02 for New York. Here Toronto 1 is for Toronto data center and New York 1 is for New York data center. So that's the only difference between that environment and this environment. So there are some steps that I have put together, so we can go stage by stage, and I'm gonna create those stages in the diagram so we would know, and then we're gonna talk about the features that come our way. What are those features? So we have talked about already what features are available with here on this diagram. We did talk about these features, but this there's another slide that just shows the same thing again, that what features both have in common, and where distributed switch has more features. So yeah, there's a long list here for what it supports. For monitoring, there's a NetFlow. We're gonna just enable that to when we install the distributed switch. Private VLANs, there's port mirroring. So we're gonna talk about all that. This is an environment that is on the distributed switch VMware documentation, where they show the distributed switch and the uplinks that distributed switch is. So if I put it bigger, everyone can see that now, right? Clearly. So uplink port group, there are uplink 0, uplink 1, uplink 2. When we install the distributed switch on vCenter, the uplinks, it does not connect its uplinks to the physical network card of the, you know, that Windows machine that is hosting the vCenter. So it's not like the ESXi host. ESXi host, one is here, it has its uplinks, but its uplink port is connecting to a actual physical network card. ESXi host 1, its uplink is connecting to physical network, right? Because it's a virtual standard switch. Virtual standard switches must have connections to network cards, right? But distributed switch, it has virtual network connections. So uplink 0 would be connecting to the virtual to the physical network card of ESXi host. Once we connect the network settings of first host to the distributed switch, then we connect the network settings of the second host to the distributed switch. Everything is manual here, although there's a there's another way where if you have suppose 50 machines, suppose you have 50 hosts here, ESXi hosts 50, and you want to connect them to the vSphere distributed switch, there is that template mode option also available. But when we are installing the distributed switch, or when we are connecting first host to the distributed switch and then the second host to the distributed switch, then I'm gonna show you that option where we can actually collectively add 50 hosts in one go. We can connect huge amount of hosts in one go as well, or we can connect first host and second host manually to the distributed switch as well. So distributed switch will know, oh, I have this host and that host as well. Okay, so I now have a better picture. That process is manual when we try to tell distributed switch, hey, you have this host and that host, right? Okay, so this is one diagram. Now these are the steps, and if I go ahead, steps continue, and if I go ahead, steps continue. Okay, removing is still another topic. Wow, remove slide was just after this. Okay, this is to create an environment and then to discover and talk about more features of distributed switch. But this is, if we follow these steps, we are going to first work on our each host separately to make a similar consistent network environment on both the hosts. Then we're going to go for vCenter, deploy the distributed switch, and then import or connect the host ESX01 to the distributed switch, and then connect the host ESXi02 to the distributed switch, right? So right now, if we go step by step, we're gonna have a proper consistent environment. So let's go ahead. So the first, I'm just going to try to follow the steps and try to create a diagram as well, so we could see the big picture by literally seeing the picture. So let's have only one vSwitch 0. So we're gonna go one by one, then we're gonna have more as well. So, and then let's add a VM kernel port by the name of vMotion on vSwitch 0. Let's add a VM network port and name it virtual machine network 01. Let's do that on both hosts. Okay, so until here I'm just going to draw it and then discuss it and then do it as well. So I'm just gonna put it to red that it needs to be done, and when it is done I'm just gonna put it to green. So we have one switch and we need two port groups on each host's vSwitch 0. So the first port group will be for the vMotion VM kernel port group, will be the vMotion port group. The second port group will be the VM network, so it will be the network for the virtual machines. The traffic of virtual machines will flow through it. So let's start that. If we try to see this here, okay, since I cannot actually move those options, select and move, I'm not using Well, there is that Visio as well, and it has a separate way to show this. So I'm just going to get these things on a separate page so we could start drawing something. Let me know if there is any questions. I'm just going to try to zoom page fit to window and whole page 75 actual size. Well, there is actual size. Okay, so we have this is the setting right now for our Toronto data center ESXi01 and New York data center ESXi02. And we have vSwitch 0 here on both, and our physical adapters are these, that we have 5 physical adapters on both, although we're not going to use all of them. We're going to just use 2 of the physical adapters. And this is the server 02 where we're going to be creating a distributed switch. So what is required in the step? So first thing is that let's have a consistent or same network settings on both ESXi hosts on the vSwitch 0 of both hosts, and then we're going to connect this setting to the dswitch later. What we need is on this vSwitch 0, we need PG or port group vMotion created, and port group VM network, which is responsible for virtual machine network created. So we're gonna create these 2 port groups, and let me just quickly give it some okay. So I'm just gonna copy this to the second one, so this drawing would reflect what we are about to do. Okay, so on vSwitch 0 on both machines we need these 2 port groups created. So I'm just going to, so why are we doing this? So we could have exactly same network settings on both hosts, so that same network setting could be adopted or could be connected to the central switch, right? So let me go back and check. So the first 4 steps are these. Okay, so there will be one vMotion, one VM kernel port group with the name vMotion. Second one would be named as virtual machine network 0. So I'm just gonna bold it so we could see it better, and let's go back and try to do that. So in order to achieve similar or consistent network setting, so I'm just gonna go back to my host. I hope if you're trying to do that, then let's. So I'm just gonna go for Toronto data center. There will be a major change next, and when it comes, I'll let you know and why we're doing that. So I have clicked the data center Toronto 01, or actually the host, which is in your case ESXi01. So I'm just going to okay, I already have vSwitch 0. I do not, for now, I do not need, oh, it's already empty. So vSwitch 1, oops, I want to edit that. Cancel. I'm just going to delete that. So, and while it is being deleted there, I'm just gonna click the host on the New York side, ESXi02, and yeah, it has just one switch. Okay, good enough. So oh, and there was one virtual machine, I think, connected to that. So it's also oh yeah, it's still there. So on ESXi01, I'm just going to go to VM kernel adapter here. Let's check how many we have already. VM kernel, adapters is responsible for the management traffic. So I need to add vMotion So I'm just gonna click here, add networking, and here's the VM kernel adapter, network adapter. Next, it's going to just select this default switch vSwitch0, which is okay. Next, we're just creating a port group called vMotion. No VLANs for now. vMotion traffic. Click that. Next. I'll let it grab the IP from DHCP. Next. And finish. So it's creating that here. While it is creating this, if I want to create another one, virtual machine network traffic, so I'm just gonna go to add host networking again. So the previous job is still going on. I'm just gonna go for this third option here, virtual machine port group, for a standard switch. Next, so it's responsible for all the virtual machine traffic. Selecting the only vSwitch we have. Next. So I just wanted to have the consistent naming, so virtual machine network 01 in the slide. So I'm just gonna put it to virtual, oops, it's not, oh, virtual machine network 01, and next, finish. So okay, next one is still being created. I'm just since it's just working, I'll let it work and go ahead and you know, do the same thing on the second host. So I'm just gonna go to the E6I02 or the New York 01 and quickly create two VM kernel adapters, so two types of traffic for port groups. So I'm just gonna go to VM kernel adapter, add here, one vMotion and one just virtual machine network, vSwitch0, name it vMotion and motion traffic. Next. Okay, next. I would not let these ports take an IP from DHCP in a production environment, right? We would just keep on coming up with static IPs and have an Excel sheet to maintain which port has which static IP. Anyway, here it's just a lab, so environment. So I'm just gonna quickly, while this is being created, I'm just gonna go for the second one, which is the virtual machine port group, responsible for virtual machine traffic across the switch. So there will be another, you know, there will be some more questions coming your way. So let's see if next questions, machine, can we give the same port group name on two separate hosts? Machine network 01 on both hosts. Finish. It has a separate IP, and so now both of the hosts are supposed to have two VM kernel port groups. So I'm just going back and checking this. There is that vMotion, and if I go to the virtual switch itself, so now there already was a port group called VM network, which is responsible for virtual machine traffic. Now there is virtual machine network 01 as well, and anyone knows how to change the name of the port groups? So if I click here on the port group name, click, and then go for, so this is the name appearing here for this port group, right? So if I go for vMotion, click that, vMotion is appearing there. So we can make, you know, changes in the port group names. So I'm just putting here, going to the edit settings by clicking on the pencil. So the second one was virtual machine network 01. So I'm just gonna put the default one as virtual machine network 00, because the second one was 01. So it's 00, press OK. So I'm just changing the names as well. For this port group, this is also updating it. Okay, update port group here. So one vMotion, one management network, and two virtual machine network 00 and 01, right? So okay, it's still going on here. While it is adding, I'm just gonna go back there to the A6i02 and just check if both port groups have been created, and I'm just gonna rename the port group that was by default created with VM network, and I'm just gonna change it to virtual machine network 00. So now we have similar settings on both after this. So I'm just gonna click here and click the pencil and just rename it to So who is following this lab? Can you tell me on the chat? Virtual machine network 00 for the E6i02 as well. So anyone following this lab can tell me in the chat, or as it is, sit back and enjoy the show. All are following, yay, okay. No, practically, step by step. Anyone following step by step? Okay, there's a yes. Okay, so let's go ahead. Now I'm just gonna go back to the slide and go with the next steps. I'll do it later to prepare screenshots and review lecture. Okay, cool, no problemo. But there are others following, that's also good. So the first 4 lines are done. So 2 port groups created for vSwitch 0. So I'm just going to put it to green. Okay, next, create a D-switch and have 4 uplinks and no default port group. Let's create a new port group. So instead of 4, we're gonna have 2. So we're gonna go to the net, that interface, and then we're gonna talk about that. So let me just check wherever it was. Yeah, 2. So let's go there. The first step is create a D-switch. Let's create a new port group by the name of vMotion on D-switch. Let's create another port group by the name of virtual machine network. Okay, that's what we created. 2 port groups we created on each host, but we're going to centrally create the same names port group on the that distributed switch. The one thing that I would right, let me get that notification stopped because it's gonna pop up in the video. It's gonna keep on popping up in the video. application off, save. Okay, so guys, there is one more step that we need to do even before creating a distributed switch, and I'll tell you the reason why. And that's also the reason why I asked you to create a third ESXi host. Move the ESXi01 from Toronto data center to New York data center. Anyone knows why? Anyone knows why we are doing that? So all the virtual machines of ESXi01, everything ESXi01 will be moved from. Thank God we don't have to travel, make this all the virtual machines travel from any other segment or any other branch, or travel over the WAN. But when we are doing this, the purpose is that distributed switch is created under our data center, right? So if I create a distributed switch under the New York data center, I will have just one host to play with, but I need at least minimum two hosts to see and check the settings of distributed switch or play with them. So that's why at least minimum two hosts, and if you have the third host available, then just add that to the New York data center as well. So first step would be to move the ESXi1 from Toronto data center to New York data center. I'm just gonna do that, and then the next step would be this. So I'm gonna reach till here, so let's put it to red, and let's go one by one. So moving the host, so how does the diagram reflect that? Oh, I was working on the Visio actually. So instead of ESXi01 in Toronto data center, it's going to be also temporarily New York data center, and both will be the hosts of one data center instead of independent two data centers. Okay, so port groups created locally on standard switches, and the host will be migrated or moved to the other data center. So let me do that too now. Oh, IP is the same in the diagram. Oh yeah, I guess I copied that. So 100.3, 100.4. Which IP is it? Come on. Okay. Anyway, so which IP? 100.3, 100.4, right? Okay. Let us go to that vCenter and just switch this machine. So I'm just moving this host to the New York data center from Toronto data center to New York data center. So right click this, move to, right? So I'm just gonna right click this and IP address for ESXi03. Okay, in the diagram, let's go there to the diagram. So many applications open. Oh, so you're saying that if this is on the same data center, if this host is on the same data center, it should both be .4. No. So suppose you have a data center. Okay, like they are unique machines, that's all. Just like any other machine needs to connect to the data center to have it, so they must have a unique IP address. That's the only thing. Oh, nobody's watching this, right? Okay. Oh, empty. Anyway, so yeah, they should have unique IPs. Let's go ahead. So they are just independent two machines that should be on the network. For that, they need IPs. So I right click the host of Toronto 01. In my case, in your case, it's ESXi01, right? that is being transferred. So I'm just gonna click move to here. If this option comes here now, move to, click that, and it's asking where to move. And if there were more data centers, we would have more options. Right now just click New York, and I'm just gonna scroll down, press OK, and going. So move entities, so it's showing some movement there. Let's put it to full screen, and the host is moving to New York, or although it's a huge distance between Toronto and New York, thank God it's not the case here in our lab. Still, in my case I have just one machine. If you're doing that, or when I did that on my other environment where there were like 7 or 10 machines, virtual machines there, they were not full, they were not like started, or they were not, so everything is virtual machines are shut down. I have just one machine. That's why transferring the host itself from one data center to another is easy for me. Okay, it seems like it's done. So okay, host transferred from one data center to another. Okay, so if I go for hello Mr. Host, well, okay, there's still some processing going on, so let me just try to expand that. Okay, now they're showing on one data center. Let's go ahead and create the distributed switch. So right now they are both on one data center, and now we're going to create here the distributed switch, D switch 0. So I'm just gonna go ahead and check the steps here. One is done, and let's go for create D switch and have 2 uplinks and no default port group created yet. So let's go ahead and create a distributed switch here. So let's go back to the environment, and we're gonna create so I'm just gonna right click the New York here, the data center, and there you go, the new distributed switch. When you right click the data center, the new distributed switch is there. So D switch is the name. I'm just gonna put it D switch 0, just like we have V switch 0s, there will be D switch 0 as well. Just adding the 0, the D switch is already there. Next, and so there are those backward compatibility distributed switches that could be created for all the versions of vCenters 5.1.0, 5.0.0, 4.1.0, and 4.0, and the capabilities and facilities that are features that are available are mentioned on each level or each edition of the distributed switch. We're just going to go for, it's going to be compatible, this one would be compatible if we have older environment of vCenter. It's going to be compatible with the features. Backward compatibility is there, in short. So we're going to just deploy the 5.5 so we could see all the latest features there. Next, we're going to be connecting. So number of uplinks is that how many ESXi host network cards are you connecting to, which in general means that how many ESXi hosts are going to be offering the connection. So if I have 2 uplinks, this means 2 network cards we will be using of both those hosts to communicate with those hosts, right? So if I can have 4 uplinks as well, and you can increase the network cards of those hosts to 4 network cards, which we actually have. But let's just try to keep it simple first. So if we have more connections per host, it's going to be, the capacity will be more. Whatever policies are being sent by the distributed switch will, there will be more capacity, more bandwidth available for those policies to reach, or the traffic to be, to reach there, or to control all the hosts. The more network cards, the bigger capacity. But for now, we're gonna have 2 uplinks which will be connected. We will be trying to connect to 2 network cards of both the hosts. Let's see that happening. Network IO control should be enabled, so input out, there will be features that which will be available, and we can configure those features on distributed switch, so the input output of the network could be controlled, the incoming outgoing traffic or ingress egress traffic could be controlled. So uncheck this create a default port group. We're going to be separately creating port groups. One is vMotion port group, and the second one virtual machine network port group. For now, we're not creating any. So next, so 2 uplinks, and that's it. Click finish. So on the data center level, there will be a distributed switch created, and now we can go and visit it on the networking tab here on above. We are here on the hosts and clusters. So we're gonna go for networking tab just to check if the distributed switch is created, and to look at all the options there. So I'm just gonna go now to the distributed switch, or the networking, sorry, and then to the distributed switch, and let's expand the New York data center, and okay, I'm just gonna put it on settings in this tab here, so we could see the diagram, we could see how it looks like once it is created. And it is SSD super slow drive today. Okay, so this is on the vCenter level, but this task has started here on the right side, and I can go to the data center level and try to check it there. Let me check my performance here for the system. CPU is good, memory is okay, not overwhelming for the laptop. Yeah, hard disk transfer rate, okay, there's no significant bottleneck. Okay, starting task. Wow, seriously, like it's gonna take that much time? Okay, well, it's gonna be there any moment, I hope. So while it is still cooking still processing the request, we can go ahead and check what are the next moves. Create a D switch, distributed switch, and have 2 uplinks and no default. So this is done, or is in the process. The next thing is, let's create a new port group by the name of vMotion and another port group by the name of virtual machine network. So how it reflects in the diagram. So actually port groups are always blue, So let's just put it something else. Switches, let's make them brown. So we're gonna be creating a D switch, and then there will be port group vmotion by the name of vmotion, and port group by the name of VM. Let me just type all the virtual machine network. I couldn't come up with something smaller than this or longer than this, so I had to rely on this. And then put it to blue because port groups are blue. Icons showing there. One port group, second port group, and port groups here also. So I'm just gonna quickly put them to blue so we could have a consistency in the diagram as well. Okay, let's check it back there. And seriously? Okay. I just clicked something extra, and standard networks, distributed port groups. Okay, it's there. vCenter level and in the networks. So let's try this out. Okay, click here. And it should be showing now the distributed switch. Seriously, why is it so slow? We have created virtual machine, so there's a comment in the chat. Created virtual machine networks 0 and 01 on both hosts. Will they be shown at the network tab? For both hosts, yes, they will be shown on the network tab on for when you start seeing it on the host level. So let me check. When you click the host network, it's going to show that. When we see the distributed switch network, they're not going to be showing there. So yeah, they're showing. They're showing on the data center level, but if we go to the host, yes, you're right, on the network they should be showing, but when we go to the host, if like this, then we would know which one is related to which one, right? Although we can just click it on the network as well. I mean, like just directly that's as well. So if I go back to the host, and those settings there will show which is connected to which one. But yes, on the network there should be showing that. Yeah, you're right. Anyway, so it's too slow, so I'm just going back and checking those options is just taking more time. Okay, back to the network, and let's check that D switch. What is wrong? Maybe the RAM is very less on this vCenter. 4 gigs. Okay, distributed switch is there. So if I click here now and expand that, there are 2 uplinks that should be showing there, and the distributed switch as well itself. But there are no port groups showing there because we haven't created any port groups yet. So let's go and check. So this is the distribution D switch. Let's go for the manage the D switch there, and from here the connection, or that we're going to be attaching first host and second host one by one to the distribution switch. But let's see how it shows right now in the picture. Okay, there are 2 uplinks, so it's saying that I have 2 points of communicating with any of the hosts that you're going to connect with me, Mr. Administrator. So this left side is going to be populated once we create the ports. Let's create the port groups. So if I go back to let's create a new port group, vMotion as well as virtual machine network. So okay, I'm back here. Either we can right click the D switch there and all the options are there, or there are icons here as well that are going to just show the same thing. So create a new distributed port group, right? There are these features also available for distributed switching, topology properties, LACP, private VLAN, NetFlow for monitoring, port mirroring as well. Has many functionalities that are written, so we're gonna go briefly check them, but first we need to create our network, which is taking huge time itself. What we need to achieve here is when we connect 2 hosts, we need to put one policy. We need to change one policy from the distributed switch, and then we're gonna go down to both the hosts and check if that policy is also enabled there on the host as well, right? That means the D switch is controlling the networking of the 2 hosts. Anyway, let's just quickly create the port groups because it's taking too much time. This complete lab would just give us the good insight into. So distribution D port group, instead of this I'm just gonna put it vMotion, the name of the port group, distributed port group that is being created on the distributed switch. So vMotion is the name of the first port group. How about we just put it D, because it's not the standard switch, it's the distributed switch. So D vMotion. Next. Okay, these are the settings that we can for the ports, because it's a port group. So we can go for dynamic or static binding. This could be automatically or statically configured, but whatever ports are already, when during the installation we did saw huge amount of ports for all types of traffic that were already decided. It was pre-decided by the VMware ESXi that which port will be serving what traffic. So vMotion ports are already decided. The storage ports were already selected there, and port allocation, which traffic should be allocated, what port is elastic. Elastic means VMware has already decided and has configured and dynamically can change those if required. But VMware has already decided that which ports are responsible for which type of traffic. So that's why we're gonna keep those settings intact, so VMware could handle the pre-decided ports for pre-decided type of traffic. Number of ports total, by default 8 ports are there because that's the minimum recommended number of ports. But when we go customize, hey, we have another type of traffic or that we have created, or there will be other type of virtual machine traffic, so we need more ports, then we can come here and very carefully change those options. For now we're gonna keep it default options. And network resource pool, we haven't gone to the resource pooling yet, DRS, so we're gonna be in detail checking all those options there as well when we start DRS, what the features are there. And okay, so VLAN, we're not touching those VLANs, and customize default policies configuration. If I click this, see there are 3 options here, right? If I click customize, look at this. Now for this particular port, it's going to ask all those questions which it was asking when we were creating port groups in virtual standard switch as well. So those options could be defaults, and we can go through these options. In fact, let's keep it customized, but we're gonna keep it to default. So the basic thing is we need to really connect all those two hosts, which is the basic lab here, that how do we connect the two hosts, and basically the policies, how they go to the two hosts. So even if I click customize to have more options, if I uncheck that, they're gonna go away. So I'll just check just to go through those options. Next. So the security promiscuous mode, we did talk about that when we were creating the virtual standard switch, but promiscuous mode was enabled. They were all reject, right? They were all rejected. One was enabled and the two were rejected here, or it was on reject and two were enabled, but I just have to check the settings again. But there was but it is different. All three are rejected right now. But this means that we can decide these options once this port group is created and the hosts are connected. Whatever options we change here will be changing for the vMotion settings of those hosts as well, right? So let's keep it to defaults and click next. And traffic shaping controls average bandwidth, peak bandwidth, and burst size of the ingress incoming traffic, and egress outgoing traffic on each port. So by default, already enough bandwidth is given, but nowadays the networks are, and their capacity is increasing. So maybe we have very good monitoring enabled that tells us, hey, you can increase the capacity. We have better hardware now. You can just play with these options. Otherwise, these are already good enough, for the default options. Next. This was the option that we were playing with as well for the virtual standard switch, where route based on originating virtual port and all the other options that we did discuss. Those other options require that physical switch be enabled. Some settings on the physical switch will be required as well, but right now it's route based on originating virtual port and links network failure detection. The same option on virtual standard switch that we talked about before in the last lab. So there are two uplinks here, which are for now not connected to any host. Later we're going to be connecting these. So but in virtual standard switch there were actual network cards showing here, right? But so we're gonna leave it default, but we're gonna later connect the host to these settings one by one. Next. Monitoring net flow controls, net flow configuration. So all the settings that we're gonna touch it later when we talk about when we want to see if centrally we enable net flow on the vMotion port group distributed switch. Does that setting enabled reflect on both the hosts as well? So I'm just gonna keep it disabled, and then I'm gonna later change this setting, and we're going to check if it is setting. So this means that the switch is controlling the network settings of the host. Let's keep it to default right now. Block all ports, no. You know what will happen if I click yes here? It will block all ports as it says. Okay, so anyway, and the scenario was that I was trying to read, hey, why is that option even there? So maybe there's virus attack going on, or there's a hack attack discovered in the network. So you could be blocking all ports because there are very sensitive virtual machines there inside this, which should not be accessed by outside any attacks. So anyway, there's that block all ports always enabled. That vMotion you want to just stop. Okay, this is a vMotion port group setting, right? So you can block all ports for this. Okay, next. And then there is that override thing. We're going to test that as well. That we're going to check if overriding any of the options that you may be able to change on the host level. You would override no, that you want allow block port on host level, or you just want it to be handled, or traffic shaping from host level, is disabled, this means it's going to be handled from this host, from the D switch. So everything else is, you know, handled from the central area, while we can allow that, okay, on the host level you can do this as well, this is but otherwise keep the decision making or setting changing to the distributed switch level. Okay, next. Ready to complete. Number of ports 8 and click finish. So what I was creating was a port group, distributed port group, and that was for vMotion. And first I'm creating components here that do resemble with what we have created on the ESXi hosts. So vMotion port group was created on both, so I'm creating here as well. So the next port group will be you know, the virtual machine network. So I wanted to do it while they are processing, but now they say no, let it process first, and then I'm gonna let you click that to add the second port. If I right click here, I think it's gonna gray out. If not, I'm just gonna create another port group. Manage distributed port groups, manage, add and manage host, migrate VM. New distribution port group is grayed out. So until the first port group is created, the second one won't be created. Okay, well, what does it say? So that this one is under process, done. Let's create another port group by the name of virtual machine. Okay, well, I'm gonna do that with this by giving this name, virtual machine network, and then the next steps would be to let's create a third port group by the name of management on D switch. Now let's add the first host. So that is the main area which I would be starting. Management. Okay, there's that third port group. Management needs to be created. Why? You know why? Because seriously, because okay, while this is going on, if I click anywhere else, is it going to be terribly slow? Yeah, you know, there was, you remember, okay, if I go to the diagram, I could show that these are the port groups we created, but by default there was a port group already available by the name of management. This is a by default created, right? So one port group is responsible for management access to the ESXi host. So that's why a third port group is also written there. So I'm just gonna reflect it in the diagram, so at least we are on the same page on what we're doing. Okay, so I'm just gonna create third port group as well, because when we are adding a host, the host port groups will be available, and there will be an option, oh, you want to connect this host port group as well as that host port group. So management is also there. So whatever, you know, oh seriously, okay, whatever controls you want to hand over to the distributed switch, you can do that, or you could leave some of the controls to the, you know, ESXi host as well on ESXi level. This is ridiculous. Anyone else doing this is done with this? Or is it taking equally same time? Maybe I could just close some of the million applications that are oh yeah, inquiry. Well, these windows don't bother. I think I don't need VMware 02. It has nothing, so I'm just gonna shut down this to get more memory freed up. Okay. Oh, okay. Seriously? D-switch, what's the memory for these guys? 4 gigs, okay. 4 gigs. Okay, there's a suggestion we should take a break while this is running. And yeah, guys, so I'm just gonna create 2 more port groups here. So after this, I'm just gonna get 2 more. So while you're back, I'll be done with the other 2 port groups as well. So let's take a 10-minute break. 10-minute break. I'm just gonna unmute. I think I should mute back. Okay. First port group created. I'm just going to quickly create the second port group. Wow, it started this slow. Virtual machine network. What's the name for the second port group? Next. Now I'm not gonna go with that custom options, those custom options. So accepting the defaults. Second port group being created. Oh yeah, so during the break I haven't stopped or paused the recording. Okay, so still going on. Wow. Okay, created. Let's go for the management port as well. Find a virtual machine according to host as a template. Host for this distributed port codes. Okay, so now the name would be management. Wow, it's seriously lagging. Let me just check the naming there. Management. For the first port, I selected all those customize options. That's why it took like forever. Now this one is just going faster. Okay, so traffic shipping. Okay, round 3 created. Okay, so just gonna pause now. 2 minutes remaining for the break. Okay, back from the break and resuming. So all the port groups are created and our tasks are going one by one. So let's check it out. We have created 3 port groups on distributed switch level. Now let's add the first host. And there are these settings that we need to make sure. So what components of a ESXi host we want to connect to the distributed switch. So there is we were talking about these 3 ports, and there will be 2 network cards that we're going to be connecting with the distributed switch, or we will be telling distributed switch, hey, these are the 2 network cards that your uplinks should be connected to, and these are the 3 port groups that you can manage when we connect these port groups to these distributed port group. And this will not be just for one host. The same procedure will be done for the second host as well, where 3 port groups will be connected and 2 VM NICs will be connected to the VM link. And with this VM network, which we called in the actually I should put it like that. It's gonna be long, but that's how we put it. Virtual machine network 00 on that, and quickly go for. So when we reach this, when we are connecting the virtual machine network, there will be lots of virtual machines showing there as well. Those machine connections will also then be controlled by the distributed switch. So we're going to see that in that one wizard where we'll be connecting port groups as well as virtual networks, the physical network cards, as well as the virtual machine connections through this port group. So let's start that wizard where we introduce the first host to the distributed switch, or the networking of the first host to the distributed switch, and these are the components that are going to be connected to the distributed switch, right? So if we go back, let's try to add the first host. So I'm just going to go back to this, and now I had used to create a new distributed port. Now add hosts to this distributed switch and migrate physical or virtual network adapters. So I'm just going to go for the second icon here, and let's just checking what's the third edit. So yeah, once we create that, we can edit it, but for now let's add first host, and then we can go ahead with the second host. But if you had, so when you're doing your screenshots, you can go for if you have 3 hosts, that's going to be even much better. But anyway, right now the wizard says what we want to do, what tasks we want to do. So we're gonna say that, hey, we're just adding hosts right now, and later we can manage the host networking as well, that what networking features are connected with the distributed switch. But right now, first add the host, which is the most integral part. So when we click next and go to new hosts here, it's showing 2 hosts, and that's why I had to move the ESXi01 to the New York data center so we could see 2 hosts. Otherwise, distributed switch, we had to create one distributed switch for New York and data center and one for Toronto data center, and then just manage one host, so that didn't make sense. So okay, so I'm just going to, if we want to keep the things simple, I'm just gonna select one and press OK. But I want to show one more thing right here, and then I'm going to go back and change the settings. So right now, I'm just, for this window, I'm going to add the second host as well, just to give you one more option. What is that option and why is it so important? So I'm just going to select the second one temporarily, then I'm going to remove it. If I select 2 or add 2 hosts, then you see this configure identical network settings on multiple hosts template mode. So that's very, very useful, because what's happening is that suppose you have at 50 hosts or 100 hosts, and when we add the first host and we add their port groups and then we add their virtual machine connections, the host by host, if you run this wizard, that's going to take very long time. But you can, if first of all, if you have exactly same settings, network settings, port group settings in all the 50 hosts or 100 hosts, for example, if there's a long line of hosts in that one data center, it's a huge company. So if all the network settings are exactly the same as we created same settings, right? And this is always the case that in huge environments, this is not always the case. In huge environments, some hosts have more network cards, some have less network cards, some hosts need more port groups, some hosts need less port groups. So in case their settings are all equal, then we click this option. So if I click this option now and configure identical network, so it will ask which of the 100 hosts, select any one host whom you will use as a template. So this means that whatever changes you make on that one host, manually we will be configuring that one host, and then it will automatically create or apply those changes to all the next 99 hosts as well. This is the benefit of this option. If I click next here, while this is clicked, after that I'm going to come back and just select one. So now it's asking select a template host to apply this network setting. So if I click this, so it's going to just say that okay, there are on this switch there are 3 physical adapters and VM kernel adapters too. So the settings are equal. So whatever settings now onwards I do on this, then if there were 100 hosts more, and then I click apply to all. So suppose if I click next now, so that's the option just comes that whatever you have selected, there will be 3 more wizards, 3 more windows where we have to make manual selections. So once that is done, in the end it asks that it shows just one button saying apply to all. When it applies to all, that's it. Whatever you did here will be, if the settings were identical, they will be automatically applied to all the remaining 99 hosts as well. So this is that option that I was talking about, but I need to go manual because then we could understand those steps. They're a bit tricky. So I'm just gonna uncheck this option, but now we know that if we have 100 hosts suppose, or 50 hosts, then one of the machine you just do the manually configure all the options and then apply to all, and those settings will be applied to all the rest of the 49 machines or 99 machines. Okay, anyway, so I'm just gonna click the second one or first one and remove that. I'm just adding the first host here. When I do this second time as well, so then also we're gonna try to, if there's something missing, we can understand. So that first host I want to introduce to this switch. For that, what portions, what aspects of those, or what features of those hosts you want to connect to the distribution switch. So there will be managed physical adapters. Yes, their physical adapters I want to connect. So if I uncheck this, so these are grayed out, and this will be selected right now. So if I select this, so yes, the port groups of that host should also be connected to that one port group we created on the distributed switch. And yes, this virtual machine port group, which was responsible for the virtual machine traffic, should also be selected and managed, connected to the distributed switch, and then managed by distributed switch, right? So I'm going to select all these 3 options. We can just go only one option, then start the wizard again, go second option, third option, it's up to us. Okay, so I'm just going to go for next. So we have these physical NICs available there. One NIC is connected to the virtual switch, and so I'm just gonna select this VMNIC 1 for the ESXi01 host, and I'm going to go up and assign uplink. So this means that the physical adapter of the ESXi01 will be mapped to the virtual adapter or uplink 1 of this distributed switch. So distributed switch will have communication established with the network adapter VMNIC 1 of ESXi01 through this step. So I select uplink 1, press OK, and then I say, yeah, just take control or take over the second network card of this ESXi host as well. So I'm just going to select the second one and assign uplink, click, and the second one is already selected, click OK. So two of the physical network cards are connected now to the uplinks of, or mapped to the uplink of this distributed switch, which means it can control these two. And we still left out VMNIC 0 to the vSwitch 0. So in case maybe there's some communication problem, maybe something happened to the vCenter machine and it's out right now, so we could still connect, we still have the connection through vSwitch 0. Maybe there's a lot of virtual machines traffic going on, so we would just redirect those virtual machine traffic on that ESXi01 to this vSwitch 0 temporarily until whatever problem with the distributed switch is resolved and it's back. Then we're gonna just distribute that virtual machine traffic or redirect that virtual machine traffic from 0 to those links back. So that's why we left one of the VMNIC here and two are connected to that. So the policies coming from distributed switch could come to this ESXi01 host. So click next. Two network adapters of ESXi01 mapped to the two uplink connections of distributed switch. Next, then it says VM kernel adapters. So we have already VMK01, which is management network, and VMK1 vMotion. There are two adapters showing here related to management traffic. So we can assign these two adapters of ESXi01. In my case it's Toronto 01, in your case it's ESXi01. We're going to map these two adapters to the port groups of the vMotion port group we created on D switch and management. So I'm just going to assign first select the VMK0 management network, assign port group, and there is that management distributed management port group. I should have added the D here, but anyway, it says that it's connected to the D switch anyway. So click OK. Now the ESXi01 management port group is mapped to the port group, management port group created on that distributed switch. Okay, so VMK1 vSwitch 0 vMotion, I'm just gonna click that and click the assign port group, and vMotion vMotion connected to this. Press OK. So now physical adapters connected to the uplinks of the distributed switch, VM kernel adapters connected to the VM kernel or the distributed port groups of distributed switch. Let's go further. It says, oh, will there be an impact? Analyze that impact. Our SCSI network will be not impacted, which is okay. So we're just gonna, there's nothing to do here. So just click next, and then the third VM kernel adapter comes now. Hey, there is that, it's saying that there is that virtual machine network that is present on the, if there is a virtual machine, it's going to show. If there is no virtual machine, it's not going to show, right? But so we're going to just connect this virtual machine network by clicking the virtual machine. It's showing the network adapter, but we're going to just select the virtual machine, assign port group, and that will be our virtual machine network that we connected. So this means that distributed switch should is mapped to the virtual machine port group. VM network 001 was created on 01 was created on ESXi01, and 02 was created on ESXi02. So ESXi01 virtual machine network 01 is mapped to the port group on distributed switch, which is the same name we gave. Press OK. So migrate VM networking. Yeah, the networking is only migrated, not the virtual machines itself, right? Just the networking is being handed over to the distributed switch. Next. Okay, so hosts to add physical network adapters. Yeah, that's the summary. Click finish. Okay, so now the information for the ESXi01 will be added here. Oh my god, is it gonna take forever? Okay. Okay. So this is the first host. Then I'm going to just, I think it's going to let me, because it is add host to the distributed switch, and if I start the wizard for the second host, you know, exactly the same settings, new host here, it is letting me do that, so it's good, kinda. Oh, kind of okay. Okay, so second host appears, and you know, I could have just gone with that template mode thing, but one by one, first time you're doing, so one by one, first we go manual. I would recommend that you go for that template mode when you're doing with 3 hosts, because you've seen the manual way of doing that one by one. So VMNIC1 being assigned to the uplink 1 of the second host, and VMNIC2 being assigned to the uplink 2 of the second host. So there could be 50 hosts. All the network cards could be assigned to just those 2 uplinks. So it could centrally be connected or mapped. Okay, next. So when you're creating screenshots, try to use the other option of, if you can figure that out, but I already told you that it's apply all you would have to use, and just use one machine as a template. Anyway, if you are able to do that, that's good. Otherwise, just go this way. MK01. So this is the management. So assign port group. I'm just gonna go for management port group. That's okay. And then vMotion assign port group. Assign port group. vMotion. Okay, there's a comment there on the chat. vSwitch 0 shown here is standard switch of the host. Yep, that's the standard switch of the host, and host name is showing here as well. If there were vSwitch 1, 2, 3, 4, they would all show as well what is the current setting on this particular host. And it does happen that different hosts could have different settings. One host required, it's a high-end host and it has more virtual machines, so maybe the traffic is redirected on that particular host with vSwitch 1, vSwitch 2, vSwitch 3, while there's another host which is older in hardware and performance is not good. You would just use vSwitch 0 or just vSwitch 0 and 1. So different configurations there, and whatever connections or kernel adapters you want to attach or map to that distributed switch, you would choose that whatever functionality you want to be handled by the centralized distributed switch, and whatever is the functionality or port groups you do not want to, you know, be centralized, to be controlled by the distributed switch. So it's up to us. It's not like compulsory we must have this, but it's very easy to configure network settings for huge amount of hosts. Then you would go consistent network settings when you're controlling and trying to edit or change settings for hundreds of hosts, right? Okay, anyway, then there's another comment. If we connect the host with VDS directly through uplink port, then why we need VSS? We don't need VSS. So I did talk about that. Why are we leaving vSwitch 0 with network card separate from this configuration? In case there is some connectivity issue between the distributed switch and a certain host, and vMotion was going on, or some other traffic was going on, and the distributed switch is not communicating, so you would just redirect that local virtual machine on that particular host to the vSwitch 0 instead. So it's just like a plan B, that we might need to communicate with that host through vSwitch 0 in case the D switch, distributed switch is not performing well or not connected at all or having issues. Okay, so yeah, this is the second host. So the management adapters or VM kernel adapters are there. Now the virtual machine ones. Okay, I'm going to select the virtual machine there, assign port group, and virtual machine network port group, and next, and finito. Seriously, cannot complete operation due to concurrent modification by another operation. Oh, okay. I should have let the first operation complete. Seriously, health status monitoring. Yeah, not everything is multitasking. Severity critical, status new, default alarm to monitor changes in overall health status, C center, blah blah blah. Okay. My bad. If I go to that error, seriously. But that's just a setting. I'm gonna go back to the D switch. I just should have done it. I think first one is done. Second one I'm just going to try, and yeah, first one is done because it's VM1 was on the first reconfigure vSphere distributed switch. So I'm just going to reconfigure solution. Yeah, update vSphere distributed switch D switch 0. I'm just going to make sure that there is no process work in progress going on. Okay, there is mutiny. Cannot complete operation due to concurrent modification. Yeah. Okay. Cancel out. Okay, there's mutiny. Dishan? नहीं ओके बंद करो दरवाजा बंद करो Okay, back and running tasks. Let's check that. Work in progress is done, I think. So I can start with the second one. In fact, I should not have cancelled out from there. But anyway, I just have to click. That's all. Running failed. Cannot complete operation due to. Let's check this. Due to operation being going on. So I'm just going to work in progress is not, there's no work in progress, so I'm just gonna start the second one. Add host, next. Oh, new host. Next, press OK. Next. Migrate virtual machine networking. Next. Now we know the drill, right? So vmnic1 assign uplink 1, press OK. vmnic2 assign uplink, press OK. Next. Then VM kernel adapters connecting to port groups we created for management will be going to management. vMotion going to vMotion. Analyze impact. Next, summary. Oh yeah, there's that virtual machine port group with the virtual machine network. Press OK. Next. Finish. um, yeah, there it's running. Manage those running on distributed switch. So okay, let me just, while it's going on, let me just check the task we have done. Now let's add the first tool. Let's try to check mark top 3 out of 4 options on the window where it asks for a sign up link. Let's assign out. Yeah, okay, done that. Okay, vSwitch 0 will be there to redirect traffic through our host. Where's the bracket starting? Leaving VM nick 0. Okay, sorry. Okay, that's the live date, but this is the reason also I'm just putting there. On next window, let's associate with, okay, that all is done. So let's just get back there. Okay, so on next window for migrate, where all virtual machines, yeah, done that. Virtual machine network, yeah, we connected that. Let's repeat this for this. Okay, so done. Now let's check if changing any policy on the port group of dswitch shows them in the ESXi host level as well. Go to port group on dswitch and then, okay, we'll follow that just to check if it reflects that. I think it's done, or yeah, the second IP address for the vMotion is showing. Second IP address for the management is showing. Management port group always has its own IP, right? Virtual machine network VM02, yeah, done. The second one is also okay. So it should reflect here now. Okay, the 3 port groups are showing there. Now I would want to you know, do some settings here, but before that, if I go to the actual hosts and check their local settings there, then they should be showing those proxy switches that were you know, host proxy switches that would be showing there now, which means that the apart from the local vSwitch 0, there should be dswitch also showing. So if I select the first host here and go for the network settings, so there should be the proxy switch or the switch relating to the dswitch should be showing there. Yeah, there it is. The proxy switch is showing on the host level, and if I go to the VM kernel adapters, yeah, both are connected to the dswitch 0 and not enabled for vMotion. One is enabled for vMotion. Okay, second one should also be showing those proxy switches now. Virtual switch, so we have kernel adapters and virtual switch itself. And when you click here, the diagram shows that they are actually on the host level. They are showing that they're connecting to vMotion. I should have added the D here, D management, distributed management, and distributed virtual machine network. They're all D's now. Oh, and there's your DV uplink, D switch 0. DV uplinks are showing here for these adapters. That the distributed switch has taken over. They're mapped to the physical adapters here are mapped to this distributed switch. Okay, so this is the host level. So why don't we try to you know, check or try to change the policy. If I go to vMotion, and there's the properties that are showing that you know, there's a lot of things we can edit those. But if we go to the policies, and if we want to check if those policies are enabled, So there are some policies that are enabled: promiscuous mode, MAC address, forged transmits, reject, ingress, traffic shaping. Traffic shaping is disabled by default. Their ESXIs are handling the bandwidth themselves. VLAN type none, load balancing. So let's just change some of them just to check if they are. So if I go to policies and then go to edit, and then there are all these options available. So if I go for monitoring and enable this net flow, so there will be traffic generated for the flow of data going inside, incoming data, and going outside from the ESXi host. That will be generated there. And if we go for teaming and failover, or we go for traffic shaping, security, if we accept all these, miscellaneous as block all ports, definitely let's not check that. Let's not change that. Okay. Traffic filtering and marking, we don't want to filter traffic now. Enabled and plus sign, so we can tag the traffic that is leaving, so they could be checked by these processes. There is a detail for that, which we can look out, but these are the mechanisms by which the packets that are leaving or coming can be tagged, and then they could know the source of the packets that are coming, and then they could troubleshoot the if there are network performance issues. But if I enable that here, so I've enabled or changed many options here. I'm just double checking that. So okay, all allowed, just checking if it goes to the host level. Security, accept, and nothing changed here. Team, nothing changed here. Monitoring enabled. Okay, so I made certain changes in the policies here, and starting task, so this should be reflected here as well. The policies, these should be all accept. So this is one port. I'm doing it on one port on the switch level. Okay, they're all accept. So promiscuous mode, that whatever traffic is leaving this host can be captured by sniffers now, and also NetFlow is enabled, traffic filtering is enabled. So this is what I did on the distributed switch level, and if I go to the host level now, and click this, go to VM kernel adapter, and I think I made all the policy changes on the DV on the vMotion, and these are the policies here. So now I'm telling, okay, everything is accept. So all the policies on this, whatever was changed there has changed here as well for this host. So port groups, so whatever vMotion going on, all the traffic will be, we will be able to capture the through sniffers all the packets for that vMotion for this particular host, or for the other 100 hosts that were connected and were doing whenever the vMotion was going on for virtual machines. This policy will be enabled. NetFlow, I enabled the NetFlow, yeah, that will also be enabled. So yes, the policies are showing here. If I centrally change them, the policies for that port group and will change and will affect the whole huge traffic that is going through that port group. So if I go to the second host as well, to the same area, and of course it should just reflect, all the hosts should be reflecting whatever we changed on the so if I click here, yes, all the policies which I accept are showing here, but we did not check on the host level before changing that. So let me just quickly change that back, just these three, and we would just know right away if it changed then and there. So vMotion on the distributed switch, policies, edit, and there was that security, reject, let's just change that back and press OK, let it change, and thank God. Okay, I was thinking, oh, did I turn on the video? Okay, so I just put it to reject. Now let's just quickly go there back and check if it's reflecting there. It's just going to open the same area, VM kernel adapters, then vMotion. I just want to see how quickly it takes that as well. Policies, yeah, all reject on the first host and definitely on the second host. At once it changes the whole thing, whatever we policy we change on the distributed switch. Is it going to open the same area? Yeah, reject for both hosts, for the same thing that I changed on the distributed switch. Host level, it is reflecting that. Okay, that's good. If we go back to the distributed switch, so there are those port groups that we created and attached, and then we check the policies that are going down to all the hosts. And then there are D-switch level, there are settings here that are available just on the switch level, and we can change. So if we want to manage anything later, we want to add 2 more network cards just for the vMotion port, vMotion distributed port. So we can click here and manage host networking. That's like editing the stuff. But when we go next, are we able to so if I select both hosts here now, I just wanted to see if I can add an extra network card for both of them. So this is after the network has been created, I mean connected, both hosts connected, or 100 hosts connected. Can I just add 1 network card? Suppose every host has 1 spare network card available there. So if I click configure identical network settings and next, and I select the first one, whatever I do in the first one, just do automatically on the second one or the next 100 ones. So if I go next for the first one, and I'm just messing with the physical adapters here, so I'm gonna uncheck the VM kernel. Don't show me that window even. If I click that, yeah, this appears here. If I uncheck, this goes away from there. So manage physical adapters. Next, just wanted to add the capacity, but am I able to do that? So this is the adapter, and this is the second window that says apply to all, right? But if I click here and want to assign uplink, there's an auto assign here, but I could have created the second uplink first, third uplink, and then come here. So if I cancel out from here and go through the settings of the distribution switch, edit settings of the D switch, and just add the capacity of the D switch as our network is increasing, more hosts are joining. So I'm just gonna add 3 uplinks instead of 2. So when it changes here after the whole thing has been created, so there should be a 3rd uplink option here. Once that is created, we already know that the spare network card on all the hosts is available, and there is huge traffic going on, and 2 network cards may not be showing the perfect performance. So okay, third uplink is there, so I'm just gonna go quickly to the add host to this and manage host network setting. Next, attach both hosts. Now we are just trying to use that option of template mode, so template mode, and next, then it will ask which one is the template machine or host that whose settings will be copied to all the other hosts. So I'm just going to click next, and I'm going to play with the or add one extra network card here. And now the only VMNIC 0 that was available there for vSwitch 0, that's just for the lab. Maybe we have extra network cards available, but for now whatever is available. We know that VMNIC 0 is available for both hosts actually, so assign uplink. When I click there, uplink 3 is now available. Click OK, and so it is also mapped to the uplink of the switch, distributed switch. And while this is done, if I click apply to all, since there's only other New York 01 is, or E6I02 is here, and E6I01 is here, so if there were 100 more hosts, and apply to all would have just done the same thing, given that the same network settings, consistent network setting is there on all the hosts. It would have done for the 100 hosts this way, whatever is done on one template host. So click next, and is there an impact? Nope. And next, and finish. So now the third card has been added through that template mode option that I wanted you to use, but okay, we get to see that here now. Well, this is happening. There are these properties on the switch that each property we can just talk about briefly, but that would be that would require that on the physical switch side, network side, there should be some settings done. But if we go on the switch level, and so I just wanted to see that on the network card. So there's that properties that I added settings we can just go there as well. There's that Cisco discovery protocol, so if these settings need E6I network settings need to be discovered by your Cisco network, physical network, then it will be enabled, and the switches will the physical switches will also discover and add in their table the settings of these switches, virtual switches here, if we want to enable that. But is it enabled? If I go and click properties and click edit, 30 and advanced, and there is that type discovery protocol. It is already using it actually, and it is saying listen, but we can disable it actually. And link layer discovery protocol is also on the, so this is for the physical network to be able to discover the changes made on the virtual switches, their IP addresses, VLAN numbers, IDs if there are any. So, and then LACP is also an option. So what is the definition here? Okay, till now what we wanted to do was done, and thank God no error came. But the challenge I would give you, or the steps to create, if you want this environment to be back without distributed switch, so you need to, your boss says okay, that was a big mistake, or where our hosts will have different settings altogether, so we do not want it to be handled by distributed switch. So can you come up with that procedure of getting rid of the distributed switch and putting back the whole network to the vSwitch 0 environment that it was before introduction of distributed switch? So that would, I would give you a challenge, that do you have the exact procedure to do that, right? So come up with that, how to remove the distributed switch. And okay, anyway, so there are private VLANs, and then there's LACP configuration on the distributed switch. This is what we are just seeing now, the enhanced LACP support on a vSphere distributed switch. lets you connect ESXi hosts to physical switches by using dynamic link aggregation. So there is link aggregations, ports that are created, settings that are created, and what it does is you configure a lag or link aggregation with 2 or more ports and connect physical NICs to the ports. So the lag ports are teamed within the lag, so you connect 2 physical NICs together basically to the ports, and the network traffic is load balanced. So the main purpose of LAGP is to load balance the network traffic between the ports through an LACP hashing algorithm. Main purpose of LACP, if you want to configure it, and you have to configure the physical switches as well, is to load balance. Network traffic is load balanced between the ports through the LACP hashing algorithm. You can use a lag to handle the traffic of distributed port groups, or distributed, we just create 3 distributed port groups, right, to provide increased network bandwidth, redundancy, and load balancing to the port groups. So in the forums I was reading, and they were saying, okay, it's easy to understand what it does when it comes to configuration and to configure it correctly within the ESXi or distributed switch environment, and with to be in line with or in sync with the physical switches is an entirely different story, where you have to log into the managed switches as well and try to do some configurations on that side as well. It's not just the the distributed switch or the virtual side, but also the physical side of the switches have to be configured for that. But the main purpose is this, that network traffic is load balanced through set of ports, and then you can achieve also network bandwidth, increased bandwidth, redundancy, and load balancing with LAGP. But both sides have to be configured. And what else? It also, so I'm gonna send you the slide as well, you could read out, and then I can put the link that would really give you a lot of insight into this. So you could just go to the documentation, VMware documentation, and then so this link here would just have huge amount of information about that if you're more interested, with all the diagrams. And then there are other distributed switch features, private VLANs. So there's that primary VLAN ID, and then to further segment that traffic, that primary VLAN ID, there's a secondary VLAN ID, so that there's a further non-communication between the machines already in one VLAN. So private VLANs are used to solve VLAN ID limitations. So just like we do subnetting for IPv4, then there is no subnetting of VLANs as well. It's not called subnetting, but that's the so there's a VLAN ID limitations if there are a waste of IP addresses for certain network setups. A private VLAN is identified by its primary VLAN ID, and so a primary VLAN ID can have multiple secondary VLAN IDs associated with it. So the purpose is still to further segment the VLAN, the machines already on one VLAN ports. You could just further segment those ports or create. So primary VLANs are promiscuous, so that the ports on private VLAN can communicate with ports configured as the primary VLAN. So the main thing is that the VLAN ID and further primary VLAN ID is configured for each port, and that's how the machines know that, oh, this is from that private VLAN and those machines are from that private VLAN. Anyway, this is one of those, but I also have that link which I gave you, that also takes you to the full detail of private VLANs as well, that you can go ahead and jump into the sea of different networking features. And then there's that net flow, active flow export timeout, so the traffic going out, in and out, that can be traced by sniffers then if you enable that. And then there is that port mirroring, that will give you the option. So if I could just take out that port mirroring example, port blocking, monitoring. So anyone can guess what the port mirroring could be? Well, I take out the main definition. How do you mirror? Why do you mirror a port, or why there could be? So main thing is the capacity, or just like you have two network cards connected together, giving the capacity. So do you think that port mirroring would be something of that, or there is always another way to that? I'm just searching that document there. The basic concept, and then I'll wake everyone up. I mean, everyone is awake. I know. So this is already 9:55. So the main thing was that we are centrally communicating through distributed switch policies. We are relating it to the main area. So other than that, there is nothing more that there is a huge amount of details. That's why I gave you the link, and you can go ahead with that. But if you can implement the distributed switch and reflect the policies on the E6i server level, that would be good enough, really good enough for doing this lab, distributed switch lab. Any questions till now what we have done already? Otherwise it's a huge subject, and there are many features that can be enabled, and then what does that do, what does this do? So any questions till now for what we have done till now? If there are no questions, then guys, this is it, and we're going to I'm just going to expect that okay guys, one more thing. Who is available within this week? Can we have another class? Since we can see that you guys are the permanent ones others are all following the videos only, and I don't think they're gonna be they'll be coming maybe on the difficult labs where vMotion, DRS, that might not be that difficult, but we're gonna put to test the DRS as well by automating or putting some load on one machine, and then see if the so who is available for next 2 days tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? Otherwise I can create that video for, so there are topics for VMware security, and in that video I can create for this week, and you can just watch the video if that's okay. So only Shah is available no one else is available. Okay, so everyone is suggesting that keep the schedule to the regular Monday and Wednesday classes. So let's have those classes on Monday, because if there are questions coming for the live class, you could just ask now. That's the plus point. Plus there is no commuting you have to do for this class, so the facility is there. You can ask the questions in the live class. So okay, we'll have the class. Yeah, so I will upload this video, but any next topic, everyone is preferring to have the live class, so you could ask the questions as well, and not just watch the video. So that's why the next topic, which I will be on Monday then. So okay, yeah, so there's a suggestion privately given, so that if there is emergency, just shift it to the next automatically. If one class is not held, second it would be the other class, because everyone has scheduled Monday and Wednesday for that. So So okay, it will be automatically not the next day which is not scheduled, but the scheduled day. There would be another class starting Citrix for that Tuesday and Thursdays, so that will be yeah, so we'll stick to the automatic schedule. While done Tuesday or Thursday, there will be Citrix starting by the end of this month. That is not that big lab as this VMware is. So anyway, it will be automatic then the next day available, and whatever days are missed, they are not counted. So it is as if they never happened, right? So the class is times days are not counted, those which are missed. So today was the 6th session, and then there will be now the 7th session will be on Monday. Let's meet at that time, and please send your screenshots for this lab, very important. And let's meet on Monday then. Alright, and I'm gonna tell you guys excuse me, if you're not able to come up with the distribution switch removal, then try to remove this now, distributed switch, because we need to still do other labs with the virtual switch only, because we need to do vMotion, DRS, HA with the normal settings. If we are able to do it with the normal vSwitch 0 settings or virtual standard switch settings, then we will try the distributed vMotion with distributed switch as well. So please try to remove the distributed switch. If you're unable to remove that, then you have another environment ready before the next Monday. Have another environment ready before next Monday, or remove the distributed switch, or we will have to create extra virtual standard switches to have our next labs. We're not going to be doing other next labs on the basis of distribution switch, because we don't want extra troubleshooting coming our way. Okay, so there's another question. All the evaluation period will be over after 2 months. Yeah, and in my case it's 25 days. Anyone has the, okay, I'm pausing this video now.